Part of everything, and everything is a part of us. We are human only through the humanity of others. I am because we are. Ubuntu.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's program. It's lovely that we can actually explore the theme of Ubuntu this evening. Firstly, I want to apologize on behalf of Fatima, who was going to be our speaker. And Fatima unfortunately could not make it. She has a bit of a health problem and a few things that have come up, so she could not make it. But we have invited, and we're just waiting for her to log on. She's having a little bit of a problem for Naledi, Sister Naledi Dean, to join us. Naledi is from Soweto, and I'll give her introduction just now because she has a lot of experience as well working within the community. Ubuntu is such a invaluable understanding that we have in Africa, and I think more than ever before, it's of such significance for us to not forget what this heart is really all about, the African heart. And if we can just remember the qualities and the whole understanding behind it, it will support us tremendously and deeply. I would like to just begin this evening with a quotation by Bishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu on the whole topic of Ubuntu, because he puts it very, very beautifully and powerfully. He says, Ubuntu, it is part of the gift that Africa will give the world. It speaks to the very essence of being human. When we want to give high praise to someone, we say, you Ubuntu. He or she has Ubuntu. This means that they are generous, hospitable, friendly, caring, and compassionate. They share what they have and are able to go the extra mile for the sake of others. I am human because I belong, I participate, I share. I love these three aspects. I belong, I participate, I share. A person with Ubuntu is open and available to others, affirming of others, does not feel threatened that others are able and good, for he or she has a proper self-assurance that comes with knowing that he or she belongs in a greater whole. We believe that a person is a person through other persons, that my humanity is caught up, bound up, inextricably with yours. The solitary human being is a contradiction in terms, and therefore when I dehumanize you, I inexorably dehumanize myself. It's a very powerful understanding. I think in some ways we speak about it as our interconnectedness with each other, but also it speaks deeply about what we do to the other, we inevitably do to ourselves. And that how our experiences is so linked with each other. So I'm just going to check if Sister Naledi has managed to connect. Naledi, if you have managed to connect, just please put your camera on. Okay, while we're waiting for her to come on board, I'm sorry, she's just having trouble. But I think many of us in some way or another, growing up here, have experienced Ubuntu on one level or another. I think, especially within the traditional communities, it's not so much spoken of as a philosophy or an understanding, but it is more lived through. So while we're waiting for Naledi, I think she's having problems connecting. I'm going to just open it up in a way that let us just have it as a conversation this evening. And I'm going to ask whoever would like to just share what, my first question is always to Naledi was also that Ubuntu is not so much spoken of in communities, but it's lived through. So how did you experience Ubuntu growing up? And just some examples of that. I know there are a few on the call this evening for whom this is a very part of the culture and the mindset. So please do feel free and let's open it up and share. So anyone who can share what did it really feel like? How was it expressed to live with Ubuntu? What did Ubuntu look like in your home, in your community? Please, anyone. Cynthia, would you like to share? Peter, would you like to share?
Can I please?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. My children, my 3 sons, raising them and coming from work and the stresses involved, I raised them on my own. I had a wonderful African nanny, and she loved her Bible, reading it all the time. And I would get so upset with the children and even shout at her. Then she shouts at me and says, she is a person through another person. And I never understood what she meant by that, but she always spoke, when she spoke to me, she spoke from the Bible, using God as an example. And eventually I understood that what she meant was that I can only be, or she can only be what she can be through me. It took me very long to understand that. So that's all I have to say.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, hi. I want to
Hello.
share to
Hi.
say my understanding of Ubuntu more than it's not easily translatable like in English to say you are or we are because you are or you are because I am. Ubuntu is a way of life. It's about being humble. It's about being caring and looking out for others. My experience of Ubuntu would be in a township setup. We grow up in a community, and we say when you raise a girl or when you raise a boy, you raise a man. When you raise a girl, you raise a village. I think conceptually, it simply means that there's always an extension of looking after others. My children, my neighbors' children are my children. And the well-being, not just of the family where I'm born, of the community where I live, is of concern to me. I partake in it, I participate in it, I shape it, I inform it. So for me, Ubuntu is a way of life. It's about honoring others. It's about being respectful to others. It's about giving to others. It's about loving to others. So scripturally, we can say it is a way of a godly life, because what God wants for all of us is to live in peace and in harmony, in unity, loving and caring for one another. So that's my experience. I was raised by a single mom. There were 4 of us, my siblings and I, but we always had our home, because she extended herself to take care of other children that were in need. It would be sometimes sharing an evening over fire, just having soup and bread, or eating whatever that was available in the house, but we're sharing it, all of us, with those that were in need at the time. And that is Ubuntu for me. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Petra, for sharing. Yeah, I think there's a lovely saying that goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And that's very much linked to this whole concept that every child belongs to everyone in a way. So it's like a shared responsibility. Beautiful. Anyone else?
Hello.
Hello, Cynthia.
Good evening. I had a problem with my instrument here, but all the same, I think Petra took out most of the words that I wanted to say. For me, growing up, Ubuntu, the experience that I can remember, my mother was a working woman. She would wake up very early in the morning and come back very late at night. But the lady next door would be like a mother to us during the day. When we come back from school, we would go to her house, whatever my mother would bring in the evening, she would live there, we would eat there, it was like our second home. So life for us was just like that. It was about sharing. If we don't have if she doesn't have salt, she can come and ask for salt from us. If she doesn't have anything or something to eat, it was more of sharing than anything. So Ubuntu is about sharing. You live like a community. It's a community kind of life. So that's just Ubuntu, how we experience it in growing up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it was Professor John Bengu who defined it very nicely when he said that if there's one word that he would summarize Ubuntu as, he'll call it Ubuntu is virtue. And in some ways, what he was sharing as well, that it's what makes us human. It's virtues that makes us human. That's where our humanity lies. And so looking at it from that perspective, beautiful. Is there anyone else who would like to share? I'd like to also just bring up the one aspect that though Ubuntu, we know, comes from a Zulu word and has its roots here, but there are many words in Africa that link to the same concept. And just looking at Helen Sayer's book, where she's done quite a bit of research on it, I'd like to just share like Harambe, which is a Swahili word, which means let's pull together. And that's such a nice thing, let's pull together, come together to do what needs to be done so that there's well-being for all. Teranga, which is from the Wolof, West Africa, which means hospitality. So Ubuntu as well embodies that concept of hospitality and taking care. Insania, which is an Arabic word, which means humanity. Aloha, which is from Hawaii, which means compassion and mercy. And Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which is a Sanskrit word meaning belonging to one human family. And so it's lovely to see that this kind of thinking, that what makes us human, what gives us our humanity, what brings us together is such a universal concept. I would like to ask us to explore something else in a way. And I think it's really about looking at this aspect of Ubuntu and forgiveness in a way. We are in the month where we acknowledge and celebrate the life of Madiba, and Yes, if I think there's one lesson that Madiba left very powerfully for us was this lesson on forgiveness. And one of the things that he shared in his book, in a way, and he often said it as well, was this whole idea that when there's forgiveness, then it gives the soul a chance to move forward. Otherwise, I'm caged in my own sorrow and my own fears around what I have experienced. But I'd like to just use a quotation by Fatima, and the way Fatima looked at Ubuntu and forgiveness. And here's a quote from Fatima. And she said, in Ubuntu societies, reconciliation often follows forgiveness through a gesture that shows willingness to fix the damage. Thus, if you played in my garden and ruined my plants, then after admitting it, asking for and receiving forgiveness, you would offer to come and work in my garden and put it right. So very lovely how Fatima just put it through that this whole idea that everyone deserves a second chance and a way of showing that aspect of forgiveness as well in that way. So, I mean, just in your experience, and I'm going to open it up here, your thoughts in terms of Ubuntu and how it relates to forgiveness and how it relates to building communities, etc. And this whole aspect of healing that is so linked to this whole concept of Ubuntu as well. So yeah, if anyone would like to share around that aspect, would really appreciate. Any thoughts on it? Ubuntu and forgiveness and healing, how do we move forward taking in these aspects?
Shanti. I think perhaps looking at the TV today of so many people, men and women, of volunteering to go and clean up after the mayhem, that to me is also part of our healing and going forward. They weren't paid, and there were so many people cleaning up, and it's the beginning. And I think that's also a part of the Ubuntu in our country. And hopefully with that, we can heal and go forward from all this. That's just something that came to me. Shanti.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anne. Anyone else would like to share?
Shanti, Sister Pratima, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
A thought, seeing that all of us is sort of going through various types of emotions, and it's this past week and a half, and people have lost lives, etc. I think together with forgiveness, we need to reflect on what's happened and why it's happened. And this is my feeling, doesn't mean it's everybody else feels the same way. We need to reflect and try and understand how this has come about. We know that there are instigations and all kinds of things, but there's a lot deeper. The reasons are a lot deeper. So maybe I should reflect on how this came about. What are the deeper underlying causes? And then I think with the actions that have taken place, we all need to mourn before we can forgive. Because once we understand what's happened and why it's happened, and the responses to all of this, there's various kinds of losses that have been experienced besides the COVID losses. I think we need to mourn. We need to actually mourn what has happened to our country, because it's very sad. And only then can we possibly look at forgiving in whatever way we all feel forgiveness needs to take place. I don't know what the others think, but that's sort of kind of my thought process right now.
Okay. I saw Tembeka, her hand was raised. Tembeka, would you like to share?
Yes, please, Shanti. What I wanted to bring about is that forgiving without conditions, without holding on, in grudges. As South Africans have dwelled, in the past hatreds and hurt. So I feel like if we forgive without conditions, putting ourselves, in the shoes of the people who have done us wrong, can sometimes make us understand what they went through. So basically, what I'm saying is that we shouldn't dwell in the past. We shouldn't put traps into others. If you've forgiven, you have forgiven. And don't hold on to the sins of the past. So yes, that's what I wanted to share.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Happy to say Sister Naledi is with us. Welcome, Sister Naledi. Great. Yeah, great you can be with us. I'm just going to.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, great. Good. Well, technology has its challenges, but I'm glad you made it. So just to briefly introduce everyone to Sister Naledi. Sister Naledi has been a social worker since 1977, worked in different fields, medical, psychiatric, abused women and child. She's been a meditator with the Brahma Kumaris since the year 2000. And yeah, so that's a little bit about Sister Naledi. Sister Naledi, just we were just opened it up in terms of what our understanding is of Ubuntu, and very much it's so much a part of the way people grow up. It's not so much a philosophy, it's really something that you live. And then later you read about it, that it's a philosophy. So just in your experience, how do you see Ubuntu, and how has it played out in your life?
Sure, yes. So Ubuntu, just also to define what Ubuntu is, which is coming from a Zulu name, Umuntu. Umuntu is a human being. And it's a powerful way of demonstrating our identity with each other. And how this quality of Ubuntu played out in my life journey. Starting from when I was growing, I had a mother who was always interested in giving and sharing in the neighborhood. And so I grew with that practice, knowing that a human being is not only a human being, there's something very dynamic within a person. And so it was from that angle that I was able to share and to give acts of kindness to my neighbors. And what I also want to highlight here is that as I grew and evolved, I realized that Ubuntu is not only also just looking at a human being. It is also identifying the inner being of the person. And so it's evolution, it's transcendence, you transcend that's a level of looking at a person in an ordinary way. And so as I evolved in my spirituality, I realized that my demonstrating of Ubuntu comes from a deeper level. I'm also fascinated by, you know, the spiritual greeting of the Hindus when they say namaste. And for me, namaste, saluting the divinity within a person. And so as I have been evolving spiritually, I realized that it was about getting to a space where you know that every human being is extraordinary in terms of what lies within that person.
Great, thank you. I have another question, and that is really that, you know, from 1977, you worked as a social worker in the communities, and so how had Ubuntu supported you in your work during that time?
Yes, and so this quality of offering loving kindness to humanity, I found it very, very elevating for me when as a social worker. To be honest, it was only about looking at a person, not really looking within. And so I evolved when I started also to embrace spirituality in my practice, because it was no longer about looking at the client and offering a service, but it was looking deep within a person and knowing that there is so much goodness in that person. And so my service offering matured within the years of my practice, where I was able to help my clients also to step up and embrace their divinity. During those times, you know, when I started in 1976, it was more of, you know, offering material assistance. A person would come and say, I don't have this, I don't have that. And that became more tiring, more I was like offering my services, to an extent that I knew that it was not about offering material, but it was actually helping this person in front of me to awaken to a level of self-worth, of self-love. And the more I used spirituality, I found that it was actually making things easy. And I was also accuracy, you know, instead of just giving a service at random. But Ubuntu, for me, has really benefited me as a professional. And also I would witness clients coming back smiling and knowing that they too can offer something. They've got something very dynamic within themselves that they can offer to the next person, because it was a matter of self-respect, self-love, self-acceptance. And I started to enjoy really my profession when I started to see my clients bouncing happily and no longer coming to get, whatever free things, but knowing that they can still offer Ubuntu to the next person. The person who I call the client was able to bloom and change, no longer coming at the door of a social worker and being in that state of apathy, of self-pity, but having tapped into his or her inner being.
That's really beautiful, and such a gift to give someone, for them to recognize and reconnect with their own self-worth and begin to feel that they have a lot to offer as well, and not to just feel as a victim. That's really, really beautiful. So empowering. My next question is, and we were just talking about it before you logged on, and just your thoughts on it, because the aspect of forgiveness is very deeply connected with Ubuntu as well, and just where we find ourselves right now in our country, this question of how do we move forward. And I think one of the participants was just sharing the images on TV today of people all coming together and saying, we're going to clean up and move on. And so there is that spirit as well to say, whatever has happened, but we're going to move on. How do you see this understanding of Ubuntu, linking it with forgiveness? And what does forgiveness mean in Ubuntu?
Forgiveness, for me, as I understand, it's not about the other person. It's about you giving up fighting any situation. It's about you having identified your true self. Because I wouldn't even imagine that I can forgive the next person when I have not identified who I am. And who I am, it's filled with all those qualities: the quality of love, the quality of respect, the quality of tolerance, the quality of accommodating each other. And when I have not even started to forgive myself and see myself as a being, stepping up from seeing myself as a human being, but a being of love, a being of light, I am not able to forgive. Because once I forgive, I feel light. I feel that I can embrace all the differences that may be playing out in a situation, and embrace others as I would love to be embraced. And so forgiveness, especially in these critical times that we are in, it plays a major role, and it's linked definitely to Ubuntu, because in Ubuntu, I so love myself that I cannot disrespect any other person's maybe property, maybe status, whatever. But I see God in another person. I'm able to identify myself as a true being, and I'm able to embrace the other one as a true being. So Ubuntu, it's a beautiful, beautiful spiritual practice. It goes deep within, at the center of our being, so that I know that whatever the past has tarnished my soul, it's no longer of importance. What is of importance is to see a person in that context of being my brother, being my sister, and moving together and uniting together as a collective. There isn't any form of separation, but there is only unity and love and harmony. And I see it all the time as a dance. We all dance in this cosmic dance, in harmony with the Creator. And as we dance to the same song of joy, of happiness, we are able to achieve a common goal. Thank you.
Okay, one of the aspects that came up earlier, and I'd like to see what your thoughts are on that, and that is, do you feel that there has been the experience of loss as a result of what has happened, whether it's been the loss of life through COVID and or the loss of, you know, property and stuff like that that has happened? Do you feel in a way that we first have to mourn before we can forgive? Or is the mourning of loss part of the process of forgiving as well? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think the mourning of a loss is also a very good phase of our evolution. We have to mourn. But I also believe that when we prolong mourning, we are actually delaying the goodness that is actually happening. And so we can mourn. Pick up with ourselves, dust off all the grit, the dust, and move on. And when we do that, we are able to move to another level, which is the level of love. Because forgiveness is about love. And then when we love, we are able to dance in harmony and create a beautiful space for our nurturing of our souls and for also the progress of the country, of the communities, of the nation.
As you were speaking, the thought came to my mind that even the fact that communities are coming out now and are cleaning up together, as volunteers, they're coming up and cleaning the streets and the debris and all of that. It's almost like that is part of the mourning process, isn't it? It's like clearing up and cleaning up and sorting out. I remember attending a conference. It was a climate change conference, and it was a forum for young people. And there was a young panelist from Egypt, and she was sharing how she got involved in the climate change process because she was asthmatic. And the air pollution in Egypt, in Cairo, where she grew up, always affected her breathing. So she was passionate about climate change in that regard. And when the Arab Spring had happened, and Egypt went through that whole process, and she said the next day people got into the streets and were just starting to clean up. And there was a woman there who was also part, volunteering. And she shared that today I'm sweeping not as a street sweeper, because that was her usual work, but today I'm sweeping the street because it belongs to me. And in a sense, I think in a way, by people coming forward in this way and mourning the loss in a way, by cleaning up in a way, is also reclaiming our belonging to each other, and our belonging to this land, and our belonging to community as well. It seems like it's an interesting process that occurs in that way. In your journey, I mean, you've starting to work from 1977 till now. You've seen a lot being in Soweto, and different phases and times and things like that. And what has been the healing process for you deeply?
The healing process for me has been acceptance of what is, acceptance of what is happening, acceptance of myself, acceptance of the other person. It has been healing because when you look at it, all the debris, all the waste that one can see, it's also a reflection of our state of thinking, awareness, feeling, a state of our consciousness. And so as we evolve, I see that it is a journey towards wholeness. It's a journey towards healing. Without condemning ourselves, or without condemning myself, I see that step, it's okay, it's good. It is quite good, because I'm able to see the repercussions of my state of mind. And so it's a beautiful journey, I must say.
So looking at the external as a way of seeing how it can help me grow internally.
Yes.
Not to get stuck with the external, but looking at it in terms of how it can reflect and help me grow internally. So growing from it.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good, beautiful. I'd like to open up if anyone has a question for Naledi. Okay, here's someone who's put in a question. What is the best way to deal with the negative opinions of others about what is happening during this time? How do we tackle hatred and help to inspire empathy in others who are sharing hate speech? So how do we help people to emerge their empathy rather than getting stuck in hate?
You know, Sister Fatima, my belief, my core belief is that the work has to be started with me. When I focus on the negative opinions of others, I will not achieve a goal that is for the benefit of everyone. And so my vision has to be a pure vision, a vision of seeing others with acceptance and tolerance, a vision that embraces everyone. And so as we work on ourselves, we are able to tap within the light that is within each and every one of us. And when I tap into that light, I'm able to come out to the external world with waves of love, with waves of peace, with waves of joy. And I'm able to radiate to the world because we all know that we are the world, we are the light of the world. We are. And so the more we tap into that inner light, the more I will see others being light also, and also being at that level of consciousness that is still okay for them because we are all evolving, we are growing. And so I don't look at others in that judgmental way, but I look at them as being on the path of being enlightened. So the responsibility is with me to be that light, to shine that light. And that light shines with no limits, and it enters those dark places.
Yeah, wonderful, great. Anyone else has a question? Okay. I think what you shared reminds me of a quotation I have here by Her Excellency Nozipo January Badal, when she was the ambassador of, former ambassador of Switzerland. And she said, "We all share a common humanity. Ubuntu sits in each of our hearts. And so I invite you to open your hearts and surface your Ubuntu and feel its power and the joy it brings as we acknowledge one another's presence." So that's really lovely, beautiful. That links in very lovely with what you've shared, that as we awaken the light in us, it helps us to see the light in the other. And perhaps by just seeing the light in the other helps the other to awaken their own light. Yeah, great. Beautiful. Thank you. This has been a very lovely, rich evening. And I'd really like to thank you for connecting and being with us, Sister Naledi. And here's one more question before I end off with the meditation. How do we cultivate a greater sense of Ubuntu, of community Ubuntu practice, encouraging groups different from one another? So how do we cultivate a greater sense of community Ubuntu practice?
I think it also links with what I've said about self-awareness, being aware. And the more we become aware of our true selves, the more we are able to cultivate that quality that is already within us, the Ubuntu. So we, as far as I see it, it's a matter of us connecting with our being and being able to cultivate more Ubuntu and helping people to see themselves as higher beings of light.
Thank you. I think growing up in a small town, one of the things that always happened, that the community always did things together. If there was a wedding, everyone helped. If there was a funeral, everyone helped. So I think maybe decades ago, in a way, we worked more as communities, and now it's a bit more individualistic as we live in our suburbs. But I think there are opportunities wherever there's interest to find ways of connecting with community, isn't there? For people to see what is my passion and how would I like to contribute. There's always ways of finding ways of linking and working together. Great. Just one lovely comment from someone from all the way from Guyana who says, wow, thank you, a different cultural practice of love. Great. On the ground, we understand this. How are we going to get the politicians to practice Ubuntu?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky one. But I'm sure if we also send the vibrations of love to our politicians and less of condemning them, because also we don't have to expect much from them. They are human beings on their pathway to enlightenment. Because the more we see them from a negative point of view, the more we are just digging a big hole. So let's see them as beings, not really that I am, philosophizing this whole thing, but let's learn and see them in a good light, because there is goodness in them. There's definitely goodness in each and every one of all of our politicians. But the environment that we are in, all of us, including them, it's quite heavy, I must say. It's quite heavy. And so we have to practice to be light, and to practice to love. And also what is very important for me is understanding. Let's develop understanding. Let's also not play victims, that this party, we are here or we are suffering because of this party or this leader. No, let's strengthen ourselves. Let's stand and assume of being victorious. Because once we assume that posture, we are able to help them also. Because when they come down to the level of the grassroots, definitely, really, when we have already worked together as a community, when we organize street committees, that in my street, there won't be any woman abuse, there won't be any child abuse, because I am present as the light. So we have to take that responsibility and not really throw stones to our politicians.
Yeah, I think one of the things you emphasized, which was important, is everyone is on a journey. We're all
Yes.
at different levels on this journey, and the acceptance of that, so that we don't get stuck, but we can move forward. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Naledi. And so I'm going to invite all of us now just to take a few moments for a meditation as a closing. It was a really very rich sharing from you. Thank you for being here and sharing from your heart. It was really, really lovely. Thank you. So I'm going to invite everyone just to take a moment and take in a deep breath. And just allow yourself to release any tightness or tension that may be within your body. And just take this moment to center yourself into that awareness of your inner self. That beneath the body is the being within, the sacred being within, a being of light, of pure consciousness. So for a moment, just hold this awareness of yourself as light. I am divinely created. And so my true nature is that of peace, of love, of compassion, of courage, of purity of heart. And so let me just connect with that energy within, knowing that this light of goodness is what has been divinely given to me. It's the sacred part of my being that naturally connects me to that one higher source, to God. And it's an inheritance that I share with all my brothers and sisters. And so in this moment, I cherish that light and feel the fullness of who I truly am. And with this awareness, I extend a vision of love to all my brothers and sisters, to every soul, with this deep understanding that we all on a journey. We're all on a journey to ultimately return to the best of who we are. And so this awareness and this understanding brings peace to my heart and ignites in me a determination, a courage, and a hope for something better to unfold. And so Ubuntu tells me that our core is goodness and that it is love that holds us together. And this is what makes us human. But this is what connects us to our Supreme Parent. So just hold this feeling and energy and cherish it for a few moments in silence. Thank you. Om Shanti. So thank you, Sister Naledi. It was lovely having you with us this evening. And I know in spite of all the technical hitches, we're glad you could still make it and be with us. So big thank you. It was a very lovely evening. And Om Shanti to everyone. And thank you for your participation. It was great. It was a wonderful evening. Om Shanti. Stay well, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Ja.